时间，我们有请我们的总监 Rev Dr Keith Garner 由我们我们长老翻译。
He forgot your name.
He has got English name.
He's got a very distinguished Chinese name. Let me say something off the script first.
我们先从圣经当中来说几句。
Just recently at our mission council,
最近我们在mission 就是总部开会。
It was unanimously agreed that Keith Suter and I
我们就匿名的就有了一个决议，就是有 Keith Suit 还有几位
would write to the significant leaders in the Uniting Church.
我们代表我们整个威斯理中心，然后写信给联合教会
to express the commitment
去表达我们的一些意见。
that Wesley Mission has to a traditional understanding of marriage.
我们坚持我们威斯理中心对传统婚姻立场的看法。
So in the coming months, when you hear much conversation about discussions,
所以在接下去几个月当中，如果你们会听到一些关于同性婚姻传统婚姻一些讨论的时候，
you can be reassured
你们可以再一次坚定的确定，
that Wesley Mission believes marriage is between a man and a woman.
我们威斯利教会是相信婚姻是一个男人一个女人。
And will continue to practice in that way.
我们会继续坚持这样的观念。
It's good to be with you and share with you on your 29th anniversary.
很高兴今天能够来到这边和每一位一同庆祝29周年的庆典。
Somebody was telling me that many Chinese people like the numbers just before the big ones.
很多人告诉我，中国人有个传统，他们喜欢在那个大数字前面的那位数字。
But Rick and I and all the churches, as well as the organisation, look forward to the 30th anniversary.
Rick 还有那个 Keith 还有整一个教会，我们都很期待明年我们30周年的整数的庆典。
It will also mark difficult events in China as well as here.
有时候这个是很困难，有时候在中国和澳洲。
But great moments in the modern history of Wesley Mission.
但是对我们整一个威斯利教会来讲，这样一个庆典是一个非常有意义的一个日期。
I would like to say Carol and I were so thrilled to travel with the small team that went to China just after Easter.
我想说，就是当时复活节刚刚结束的时候，我和我的太太一同和一个我们中文堂的一个教牧的团队一同去中国。
I believe you've had a report here in the congregation of that visit that we made there.
我相信大家可能已经听到了这样一个报告，我们回来的一些信息。
It was wonderful to have both Anna and David and your senior elders with us.
就是我们跟金牧师、张牧师还有林长老有一个非常好的一个旅程。
As well as meet some of the family of some of your members.
我们还在中国遇到了一些主内的亲人。
We were excited to learn about what God is doing in China.
我们真的很兴奋，看到上帝在中国做奇妙的工作。
And that understanding will help us to further build bridges into the future.
所以对中国这样宣教的理解，可以让我们在将来的工作当中有更好的计划。
But these are exciting days for this congregation and for the Chinese Christian witness in Sydney.
其实这样中文堂的这样一个纪念日，对中文堂是一个非常兴奋的一天。其实对整一个中国基督徒在澳洲都是一个非常有纪念意义的一天。
In John's account in the New Testament, there is the journey to the cross.
我们看到约翰福音当中，他记录了耶稣从要到十字架去的这样一条道路。
And on that journey, we discover Gentiles described as some Greeks.
所以我们在他的约翰的福音书，他记载到很多的外邦人，他用就是一些希腊人来代表。
Who come to Philip asking the question that they want to see and meet Jesus.
所以这些外邦人呢，来到了腓力的面前，跟这个门徒讲，他们想要见耶稣。
Perhaps they wanted to investigate the possibility of becoming disciples.
所以他们有可能，他们就有这样的动机，想要接着去认识耶稣，去成为他的门徒。
In his commentary, Bruce Milne describes this part of John running to chapter 19 as one of the most profound and deepest sections of the whole gospel.
在 Mill 的解经书里面，他就有讲到，从12章约翰福音12章开始到19章，是他整一本福音书当中看到最深刻的、最深入的一些内容信息。
Now, these Greeks may have come from any part of the Greek-speaking world.
这些希腊人可能来自当时整一个罗马统治的各个地方。
But most probably from a Greek city in the region.
最有可能他们就是来自在那个区域的一些希腊人所聚集的城市。
And throughout the pages of the New Testament, there is a sense in which God-fearing Gentiles are described as Greeks.
所以我们在整一个四福音当中，我们翻阅的时候会看到，常常会在讨论一些外邦人的时候，用一些希腊人来代替。
We can refer to Cornelius' house in Acts 10 to get some hint of that.
所以我们看到《使徒行传》的时候，在哥尼流家的时候，就是这样来表述的。
They embraced Jewish ways and synagogue worship.
这些希腊人呢，他接受当时传统的犹太人的堂会的祭拜的模式。
But they didn't formally become Jews.
但是这些希腊人呢，没有正式的成为犹太人。
In John 2, when Jesus overturned the tables in the temple, you remember?
所以在约翰福音第2章的时候，如果你有记忆，耶稣在圣殿门口把那些做生意的全部赶跑的地方。
We learn of a court of the Gentiles.
我们在那边听到的一个名词叫外邦人的院。
It was forbidden for Gentiles to go into the inner parts of that temple.
所以当时的圣殿是不允许外邦人走到里面去的，所以外邦人只能停留在外邦人的院。
Punishment for entering there was on the pain of death.
所以当时如果你是外邦人进入圣殿内部的话，可能是要面临死刑。
I recall reading such words on the first time I ever visited the holy city of Jerusalem around the Temple Mount.
当很多年前 Keith 第一次去耶路撒冷的时候，他就在圣殿门口看到了这样一块警示牌。
Posted in Greek and Latin are these words.
用拉丁文和希腊文写着。
No alien must pass within the fence around the temple of the court.
外邦人不能进入到圣殿的内部。
If anyone be caught doing so, he must blame himself for the death that will follow.
如果这个人被抓到侵犯到这样一个条例的话，他们如果受到死刑的话，他们应该自己责备自己。
The point I'm making is that there were clear distinctions.
所以在当时的文化当中，我们看到那边有一个很清晰的界限。
Now these Greeks were curious about Jesus.
那些希腊人，我相信他是非常好奇。
Their desire was not to admire him or to cheer him.
我相信他们过去不是为了就是追星崇拜一下，
or just to get sight of him, which would be an untrue translation of this word.
也不是单单只是为了想要去看他一下，因为我们中文的翻译当中常常看到就是想要看耶稣，不是单单只是想要看。
But they wanted a deeper engagement with him.
更多的里面想要表达出来的是，他想要更深入的与耶稣有一个了解。
Philip first goes to Andrew with the request.
然后腓力呢就去找了安德烈。
And you remember it was Andrew who introduced Simon to Jesus, so he is the great introducer.
如果你们还记得的话，是安德烈他把西门带到了耶稣面前，他是一个非常善于介绍的一位弟兄。
And then Philip and Andrew together go to Jesus.
然后腓力和安德烈呢一同和这些希腊人去见耶稣。
And whilst the synoptic gospels, the other three gospels, identify the resurrection in terms of glorification.
在另外3本福音书当中，我们看到他讲到耶稣复活的时候和他显荣耀的时候。
There is no doubt that in John, the cross and resurrection together speak of God's glory.
在约翰福音里面呢，他只要讲到耶稣钉十字架的道路，他是跟耶稣显荣耀的时候，他是这样混合在一起，要表达这样一个意思。
From the beginning of the gospel, Jesus draws people to himself.
所以在一开始的福音书当中，我们看到耶稣把所有人招到了他的面前。
So the request of the Greeks is not unusual and not to be surprising.
所以希腊人有这样的一些要求的话，其实没有什么好吃惊的。
And I believe, in terms of evangelism, everybody needs to have an introduction to Jesus.
我相信，在我们福音传到每个人的时候，我们都需要有一些基督徒引介我们到这个信仰里面。
Sometimes it's through the Holy Spirit that we celebrate today, individually, but more often than not, it is through friends, it is through people who are willing to introduce us to Christ.
当然，有时候我们可能就是圣灵直接的启示你，把你带到了上帝的里面，但绝大部分的时候是你身边的一些基督徒的朋友，今天把你带到了教会里面。
So reading from John chapter 12, 21 and 22, we read.
在约翰福音的12章的时候，我们就读到了这样一些信息。
They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee.
他们从加利利的伯赛大来到这边，找到了腓力。
With a request, Sir, they said, we want to see Jesus.
然后他们对腓力就有这样一个要求：先生，我们很想要见到耶稣。
Philip went to tell Andrew, and Andrew and Philip in turn told Jesus.
然后接着，腓力就去告诉了安德烈，然后和安德烈一同带着这些外邦人去见了耶稣。
Any serious study of John's Gospel would say this is a significant moment in the telling of the Gospel.
在这个地方的话，其实是一个非常重要的、有意义的一个点，让我们去知道福音要传到了外邦。
The coming of the Greeks marks a crucial point.
这些来觐见的希腊人，在圣经当中是一个非常重要的一个点。
There are similar moments. The death of John the Baptist is one, for example.
像圣经上有很多一些重要的转折点，比如说约翰福音，施洗约翰他受死的时候，也是一个重要的点。
But when the outsider, when the one that is beyond Judaism, comes to Jesus, something new is happening.
所以当所有以前犹太人以外的这些外邦人要成为来见到耶稣，要成为犹太教的门徒的时候，他们就是一个非常特殊的一个点。
Perhaps there are a group of Greeks, and they notice Philip. He's somebody we know.
所以可能是一些他们当时的一些希腊人，他们认出了腓力，因为腓力是他们所认识的。
Philip is from Bethsaida in Galilee, and he and Andrew are the only disciples with Greek names.
因为腓力他就是出生在加利利的伯赛大，他和安德烈是两个唯一有希腊文字来取他们的名字的。
So it's likely that Philip came from the ethnically diverse area, and they thought, here's somebody we know, who we can trust, who will introduce us.
所以很有可能他们觉得认识腓力，他们知道腓力就是来自于他们这些地方的，知道他们的口音，知道他们的语言。
What was the purpose that motivated them?
但是这些希腊人他有怎么样的动机呢？鼓励他们去见耶稣。
In John's Gospel, there are a whole variety of different groups of people, religious leaders.
在约翰福音当中，我们看到许多不同的小小的人群，好，有一些法利赛人的人群，不同的人群。
And they appear and reappear at different stages.
在约翰福音当中穿插着不同的时候，他们就会出现到这个舞台上来。
But this is the only time the Greeks appear.
但是这是约翰福音当中唯一一次希腊人出现在这本福音书上。
Some people have even said they might represent the whole of the nations of the world.
也有一些人说，这些希腊人他是代表了全世界所有的外邦人。
And thank God that there are none of us in this room who come from countries or places that haven't needed to be evangelized.
我们相信你们来的地方，每一个地方都需要福音被传道。
Somebody has had to tell us the story.
我们都需要有一个人把耶稣基督关于福音的故事完整的告诉我们。
They took the first bold step.
他们有了一个非常勇敢的第一步。
It's quite a different thing to want to see Jesus than actually to say, I want to see Jesus.
其实有时候你心中想要去见耶稣，和当你说出来我要见耶稣，其实是两个非常不一样的事情。
You may have neighbours or friends or people in the city who you know want to see Jesus, but perhaps they're afraid of taking that first step.
可能你周围就有很多的朋友、你的邻居、你的同学，他心中其实想要认识耶稣基督，但是他嘴巴里面呢，其实要到讲出来是有很大的距离。
That's where you and this congregation come in.
其实这件事就是我们这些整一个会友如何成为的一个过程。
Very often that step needs the help of meaningful friends.
所以像这样的一些进展，需要很多时候很需要一些朋友的陪伴。
The desire to see Jesus appears to come in a very polite form.
所以他们想要看到耶稣的这样一个渴望，一个非常礼貌的方式，从他们生命当中表现出来。
It was not that determined insistence that we might hear in a young person's voice. I want. Not that kind
他
of
这种
way.
想要，并不是那种小年轻口中所说的必须要得到的，一定要看，我一定要看到的那种渴望。
There is a gentleness and the need of a response to this question.
我们可以看到他这样的问候当中，里面有很多的温柔，但是呢，又有很多的需要他回答我的问题的这样一种态度。
Many people seek Jesus for different reasons.
很多人来见耶稣都有不同的目的。
And in our city and area of 5 million people, there are many people in Sydney today who need and want to see Jesus.
我们现在所居住的这样一个城市，里面有500多万人，有很多人他有不同的需要，想要来见耶稣。
There is a special call to reach those generations of people that were born in China but live here.
也有给我们一些特别在中国出生的，我们住在澳洲的这些华人，上帝也给我们很多不同的呼召。
And the greatest thing you can do is to reach some of those people.
是最大的我们可以做的事情，就是看到这些心中有需要想要来见耶稣的人，我们去寻找到他们。
People's agendas are very different.
大家的每个人的日程都非常的不一样。
When you study the New Testament, I've no doubt that some people came to Jesus for what they could get.
我们看到新约里面，我们就看到很多人来到见耶稣的时候，他就想我能得到些什么东西。
Some saw him as a healer who might bring wholeness to their lives.
所以有些他们是身上有疾病的，他们看耶稣像医生一样，觉得见到他，耶稣能够医治我。
Some might have anticipated him to be a revolutionary that would turn the systems upside down.
所以又有一些人，他们觉得耶稣他有这样的能力，他可能是一个改革家，我跟着他可以闹革命，推翻罗马政府。
But in all these ways, Jesus is the answer to their own self-interest.
但这些他们都是根据自己的想要的东西来到耶稣面前。
Seeking is very important.
寻找是非常重要的。
Finding is God's initiative and God's gift to us.
但找到却是完全上帝的恩典。
They also expressed their sense of interest.
我们可以看到这些希腊人也表达出他们很浓厚的兴趣。
It's been suggested by many scholars around the world
很多学者这样讲，
that the Greeks were really the first among nations and peoples to go looking around the world to discover what life is about.
在人类历史当中，希腊人可能是最先的，也是唯一一个民族，在一开始就开始寻找人存在的意义。
They became a people that set a pattern that many nations would follow.
他们所设立的知识和哲学，是后面影响到整个人类社会的。
But these particular Greeks had heard about Jesus.
这些希腊人呢，他听到了耶稣，
Perhaps they had seen him teach. Perhaps they had seen him heal. Perhaps they'd seen the impact upon many people.
可能这些希腊的人，他也看到了耶稣当时在那边医治的工作，也看到耶稣行的神迹，也看到了他对人群当中所产生的影响。
I want you to notice there was a clarity about their question. We want to see Jesus.
我们想要清楚的去明白一个事情，我想要看到耶稣。
Now, what about the people who introduced them?
那关于这些引介这些外邦人的人呢？
Philip and Andrew took the inquiry to Jesus.
腓利和安德烈这两位门徒就把这些外邦人带到了耶稣面前。
In the appointment of the 12 that you read in the New Testament,
我们看到上帝拣选12个门徒，
Andrew is senior. He's named just after Peter without any explanation.
在任何的地方我们都可以看到安德烈，他都是排在彼得之后名列第2的。
And of course, it's Andrew at the feeding of the 5,000 that is the one that steps forward and assists and helps.
所以我们看到，在行5饼2鱼神迹的时候，也是安德烈出来帮助耶稣，然后把这些饼派给所有的人。
Did he see in the lad all the possibility of something the others couldn't see?
他有没有可能看到的一些是其他人所看不到的东西呢？
These qualities of Philip may have led the Greeks to ask him for an introduction to Jesus Christ.
就是这样的一些品质，就是像腓力这样的弟兄，他把这些外邦人引接到了耶稣的面前。
In any congregation, in any community of faith,
在每一个堂会，在每一个基督徒信仰的聚会当中，
we need our Philips and Andrews
我们需要像腓力、像安德烈这样的弟兄，
who are able to identify people
他可以去分辨每个人，
and introduce them and bring them to Jesus.
然后把真正需要耶稣的人引接到耶稣的面前。
On our 29th anniversary, God raised up in this congregation Philips and Andrews.
在29年我们周年庆的时候，愿我们的上帝就在我们这个堂会当中兴起很多的安德烈和很多的腓力。
And Philip has been described in these terms.
腓力呢，在圣经中这样描述他：
God shines within us. Let no one say that we cannot shine.
上帝在我们的心中发出光芒来，让我们没有一个人说我们是不能发出光芒来的。
There was a sense of attraction to Jesus.
在耶稣身上有很多的吸引人的地方。
If Philip was an evangelist, he had the kind of nature that would build relationships with other people.
如果腓力他是一个宣教品质的人，他身上一定会有这样的品格，他可以跟很多人建立关系。
We might say he built bridges into people's lives.
或者我们可以说，像这样的弟兄，他是有这样的才能，可以建造一个桥通向别人的心灵。
But eventually crossed the bridges in conversation and witness.
而且最重要的就是在对话当中，最后他从心灵的这座桥当中，他可以跨越过去。
I've spent my life being fascinated by what it is that first draws people to Jesus Christ.
我这一生都会因为每一个人信主的经历感到非常的奇妙。
The Greek has characteristically been described as one that is a seeker after truth.
我们可以在这边看到，他们描述这些希腊人就是寻找真理的人。
It's not unusual to find people who pass through one philosophy to another.
其实不容易一个人从一个哲学的领域，然后走到另外一个完全不同的领域去。
And of all people, the Chinese, you understand how philosophy and thinking is so important.
对我们中国5000年传统的人来讲的话，我们很能够理解希腊人当时这种想法，因为哲学对我们人的影响是太大了。
In every city in China that I've visited, I have sensed this historical search for things that matter in life.
我在每一个去到中国的城市当中，我都能感到一种氛围，每个人他的生命当中都在寻找一些对生命真正有意义的东西。
But the greatest search comes when we find Jesus Christ.
但是人生当中最大的得到，就是让我们可以遇见耶稣。
It was a critical moment when these people tell us the story of how it's possible to not only know Jesus, but to let that love spread throughout the world.
其实真的是一个非常重要的时候，让我们有时候听到，不单单是他们怎么样见到耶稣的，而是真的耶稣影响到他们，让他们有这样的爱，能够把耶稣的话语能够传播到世界上面去。
They were assisted, of course, by the helpfulness of the disciples.
当然会有很多的帮助是来自于这些门徒的。
The disciples, or certainly these two, knew that Jesus was never seeing people as a nuisance.
这些门徒他们知道，耶稣这些年与他们同在的日子里面，他们觉得身边的人绝对不会觉得是一个累赘、浪费他时间的事。
Even though the disciples themselves got it wrong so often.
但有时候这些门徒也会误解耶稣他的意图。
In the press of the crowd, a woman came behind him and touched him.
在很大的一群人当中的时候，有一个女人出现，然后摸了耶稣的衣角。
Never forget, he was on an urgent journey then. He could have ignored that woman. He could have said she doesn't matter.
但是我们要记得，耶稣是在要去救人的路上，是非常紧急的一件事情当中，他完全可以忽略当时摸他衣角的这个妇人，但他却没有。
Call the tax collector from the tree.
他把那个收税的那个人从树上把他叫下来，
and shared a meal, and his life was changed.
然后跟他一同用餐，然后这个税吏他的生命就改变了。
When a crooked tax collector pays money back, you know something's happened.
当这样一个非常吝啬的一个税官，他把很多多收来的税把它还回去的时候，我们知道他们心中有一些改变。
He was prepared to see a Pharisee at night.
耶稣他预备好了在晚上去接见法利赛人，
Who maybe like the Greeks here was searching for truth.
就好像这些希腊人一样，他们在寻求真理。
The disciples had special moments that they would spend with Jesus.
这些门徒他们跟耶稣在一起的时候，有许多是很特殊的时间。
We hear little of the intimacy of such conversations,
我们很少可以听到这么亲密的这样的对话。
but Jesus shared of himself with them.
耶稣他愿意用自己的生命分享给所有的人。
Philip and Andrew in this situation seem to be directly opposite to the reaction on other occasions.
在有些场合当中，腓力和安德烈的他们的行为，让我们看到他们跟耶稣的态度是不太一样的。
You remember some of the disciples were even wanting to turn children away.
那我们可以看到有些地方记载，就是这些门徒觉得孩子们太吵了，他们想要把这些孩子全部从耶稣身边给驱离出去。
We have to learn in our study groups and as we explore Scripture what it means to give our faith away.
我们真的要去明白，当我们读圣经的时候，什么是把我们的信仰分享出去。
It's the only thing that the more times you give it away, the richer it becomes to you.
这是一个很奇怪的真理，就是当我们分享的越多的时候，我们自己得到的却是越多。
Now let me finally talk about the openness of Jesus Christ toward them.
我们现在就讲，耶稣他愿意与这些所有希腊人所分享的。
We don't find in John's Gospel that he addresses the Greeks directly.
我们不经常可以看到在约翰福音当中，他直接提到希腊人。
But what follows in this passage is important.
在这些经文的后面，它是最重要的。
We reckon these words are important. Whoever would save their lives would lose them.
他这边就讲到，每一个想要得到生命的，他要失去生命。
Found also in all the other Gospels in one form or another.
在其他的福音当中，我们也看到这句话。
The call to discipleship is a call to suffer.
基督徒的呼召是一个受患难的一个呼召，
To sacrifice and even to die.
是一个牺牲的呼召，是一个甚至走向死亡的一条道路。
29 years on, there are many in this congregation will know of people in your own country and across the world who have suffered for faith.
在过去的29年当中，我们每一个人在我们生命的经历当中，我们知道我们身边的或者在世界上面的有很多的痛苦，有很多的患难。
And so we understand the words, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies.
所以我们应该很能够理解圣经当中讲的，一粒麦子要掉在地上，并且死了。
It becomes the source of life, of hope, and of growth.
然而，就是这一粒麦子，它变成生命的开始，成为新的一株麦芽，散发出来生命力的地方。
The grain of wheat which falls to the ground is an illustration that out of death comes life.
所以，这一个麦子它掉在泥土里面，死亡，然后重新长出来，这样一个过程，就是从死亡里面长出生命来的一个过程。
As the seed is thrown into the cold earth,
就好像这些种子要播在这些冰冷的泥土上面，
the earth becomes its tomb,
这些泥土反而成为他们的工具，
but eventually it will bear fruit.
但最后他们会结出丰盛的果实。
And the risen Lord Jesus Christ is what gives us as a congregation hope and purpose.
这也就是上帝给我们整一个堂会的所有的希望和盼望。
There's an unprecedented thought in this passage also.
在里面还有一个不同的想法。
We read the words of Jesus that though like Gethsemane, they have a very strong power here.
Can you say that? I didn't quite get it.
That like Gethsemane, they have a specific power here. Gethsemane before the cross and resurrection.
在客西马尼园的那个晚上，就是有非常特殊的意义。
Jesus says, "Now is my heart troubled."
我的心非常的忧虑。
And what shall I say?
我可以说什么呢？
Father, save me from this hour.
父亲，请你拯救我在这个时刻。
And here is the importance of this concept of the hour.
这是这个讲到时间的时候非常重要的一个概念。
I don't know of any people like the Chinese that understand times and eras and how important figures and dates are.
我不知道是不是全世界人都能够了解我们中国人对日期、季节、气候、节气等等这些东西的一些重要的看法。
Jesus is now saying a special hour has come.
所以耶稣在这边讲到一个特殊的时间到来的时候，
This is what we read in the chapter. The hour has now come for the Son of Man to be glorified.
这边他就讲到这个特殊的时间到了，人子即将要得荣耀。
The hour had come to demonstrate in a supreme act of love on the cross.
这个特殊的时间到来，是要表达至高的荣耀要被展现出来。
There were times in the gospel where Jesus withdrew from potential conflict.
当我们看到前面的福音当中，有时候我们看到耶稣他在人群当中，他撤离出来，他躲起来，
Not because he was afraid,
不是因为他害怕，
but because it wasn't the right time.
因为时间还没到。
But the right time has now come.
然而在这个时刻呢，他就讲时间到了。
We live in challenging times.
我们在一个非常有挑战的时代当中。
In all our histories and nations, we talk about special eras and special moments.
我们常常会讲，我们在一个很特别的时代，一个很特别的世界当中。
We are entering a time in the story of the world,
我们进到了一个世界的所描绘的故事当中，
which is a time for God's renewal and God's revival and God's reinvigoration of His people.
这个时代呢，是上帝所预备的，要兴起更多基督徒，要重振所有的教会的时候，
Jesus comes to the place of the cross,
耶稣来到了十字架的面前，
which will be an obedience to the will of God.
他是顺服是天父的一个表现，
A cross which speaks of the saving power of God.
十字架是代表着拯救，
A stumbling block to some,
是一个
a stumbling block, something that stands in the way for some.
是对有些人来讲的话，它是一个绊脚石。
Inevitably because of what he said and did,
其实就是因为他讲了一些话是很多人不能接受的，
but the great climax of his ministry.
但他讲的这些话却是整一个他的服事过程当中的一些高潮。
So the request is to see Jesus.
就是他们想要来见耶稣。
Later, Jesus speaks about all being able to see him.
耶稣就是讲到关于一颗种子要死在地里，
When I am lifted up from the earth, all people
所有人就是我要被举起来，
will be drawn to me.
所有人都会因着我要被举起来来到我的面前。
The cross is inevitable because of our sin.
因为十字架，因为我们的罪，十字架是不可避免的。
And yet the cross is the fullest possible picture of love.
而且十字架是爱的完整的一个表现。
So the Greeks want to see Jesus,
这些希腊人他想要见耶稣，
and from the cross, Jesus wants to see them and all people.
然而耶稣被举起来在十字架上的时候，他想要看到所有的人。
Despite the fact that Jesus agonizes at what might lie ahead,
不管耶稣他前面所要经历的道路有多么的愁烦，
there is a voice from heaven,
有一个声音从天上而来。
the same voice that was heard at his baptism
这个是同一个声音，在他洗礼的时候，
and his transfiguration,
也是在登山变相的时候他所听到的。
that speaks of the eternal Father's blessing and purpose in the Son.
这是永生的父在天上告诉他的话语。
Do you want to see Jesus?
你们想要见耶稣吗？
There is something about this that's quite interesting.
里面有一些很有趣的点。
Here am I, English, now Australian,
我是一个英国人，现在是澳大利亚人。
speaking to people who come from another place, maybe a long time ago.
就与在座的每一个来自不同的地方的人讲话。
But all of us, irrespective of our identities and our commitments, we all need to see and know Jesus.
无论我们来自哪一个地方，无论我们属于怎样不同的种群，但对我们每一个人来讲，我们都需要这样的耶稣的救恩。
And it is possible
这是
that some of you don't know him yet.
而且这个是有可能的，特别是在座的还有不认识他的。
You enjoy the songs, you enjoy the food, you love the fellowship, but oh, my friends, that you knew Jesus.
有时候来教会，我们很享受这里面的音乐，享受很多朋友在一起，很享受里面的食物。但是朋友们，对我们来讲最重要的是我们要看见耶稣。
As you celebrate your 29th anniversary,
当我们在这边庆祝29周年庆的时候，
the greetings I bring to you are from the whole Wesley Mission family.
我代表整一个卫斯的教会向中文堂致以恭贺。
You are a very important and well thought of group of people in this family.
你们是一个非常深思熟虑的、非常重要的一个群体，在整一个家庭当中。
We share a common passion.
我们分享同样的这样的爱、激情，
A passion for Jesus Christ and others.
一个对上帝的热情，一个对人的热情。
We will never lose that passion.
我们永远不会失去这样的一个热情。
And my prayer for you is that you won't lose it either.
我为你们祷告的是，你们也不要失去这样对上帝的热情。
29 years is but a small part of that great long history of our nation.
在整一个时间长河里面，29年是非常短暂的。
But the hour came when at the center of history, in a death and resurrection, God laid down the purposes for the world.
但时刻到的时候，耶稣基督为全世界所有的人放下了他的生命，就如这粒种子死在了地上。
Have a wonderful anniversary. Be filled with joy, but most of all,
希望每一个人享受这个29周年的庆典，
never give up your desire to see Jesus.
永远不要放弃你的渴望去见到耶稣。